folks, and welcome to this week's exercise of the week. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm going to be looking at a hip lift or a side bend. Sometimes it can be classed as a side plank for those who work at a high intensity level. But the Joseph Pilates exercise is called a side bend. So I'm going to show you the basic level and show you where it will go to. We'll start at a basic level today. And a basic level means you come onto your side and it's about the setup. So we're resting on our forearm. You want the elbow to be directly underneath your armpit and your shoulder. You want the hips to be stacked. What I mean by that is that you don't want the hips tipping forwards, the pelvis tipping forwards, and you don't want to be rolling backwards with it. So if you can think of a sort of a rod going straight down through the top hip that comes out through the bottom hip in a straight line, that's what I want you to think about. And as if you have a cup of tea balance on your top side there, and you don't want to spill it. So you have your knees stacked as well. That's all stacked means, is right on top of one another, and the feet and ankles as well, nicely stacked. Now, the position of your feet can vary. I have my feet lined up with my tailbone. Some people will have them further forward when they teach. Some people will have the knees right back so that they're in line with the hip sockets. And we will look at that position later down the line. But for today, your starting point is the feet in line with your tailbone, your knees and thighs together and stacked, the hips nicely stacked, and the shoulders nicely stacked. So that is your beginning point. And you could sort of start by just pushing the hips away and notice the feeling you get on this bottom side, and then bring the hips back. So if you think of your hips moving, the top hip moving down towards your feet, pushing them there and then bringing them back, what happens is you start to then feel these muscles on this lower side starting to activate. And then you pull back. So that would be a good way of checking your start position. Now, if when you push the hips away, you feel like you're leaning into your elbow, as I'm demonstrating, adjust the elbow, bring it in a little bit more. Because then what you've done is you've really set up your position ready to lift those hips. Squeezing the inner thighs together, keeping this lift here, just push down and bring those hips up towards the ceiling, and then lower them back to the mat. So that will be your starting point. You lift and then you lower. Keep your belly button pulled in. Of course, those are the Pilates principles that we're using. And you lift and you lower. So let's just recap. Elbow underneath armpit. Check that you have your rib cage lifted. Imagine you have a balloon that's being blown up underneath your ribs. Your hips nicely stacked, knees are stacked, feet are stacked, in line with your tailbone. Just check your positioning with your arm, maybe adjust it a little bit. Squeeze into your inner thighs, belly button pulled in, take a breath in and then lift those hips and lower. And that is your starting point. Work up towards doing about 5 to 8 on one side and 5 to 8 on the other side. And then join me next week where I'll show you how to progress that exercise. Okay, everyone, have a good week and I'll see you next time.